What is the legend of the Bermuda Triangle?
I blame the History Channel shows of the early 2000s for my lore around the Bermuda Triangle. When I researched this, I found out that there's not any more shipwrecks or plane crashes than any other areas. I was a little bit disappointed that there wasn't some magic portal to some outer space thing.
What do you think it is that sets Bermuda apart from the other islands in the Atlantic?
They have this microorganism. It has a red shell and it's crushed up in the sand and it gives it that light pink, rosy hue. It's just unbelievable. You have to see the pink sand beaches while you're in Bermuda. The way that you have to get around Bermuda is a little different. Tourists don't get cars. You can rent these little electric cars, like a 2-seater, but it takes about an hour to drive from one end to the other end. It's packed with tons of things to do. Bermuda is 21 square miles. We were told by locals that we found a gem. It was just the most secluded little private beach. And the really cool thing about this beach is these white rock formations, and they actually were the inspiration for Fraggle Rock.
No way.
You need to adhere to the local traditions. This is very important for tourists to know. It's really not socially acceptable to be.
Pack your sunnies and your sense of wonder, because we're headed to a stunning island destination that's pretty close to home, especially for the East Coasters. We're heeding the call of Bermuda, one of the Atlantic's most enchanting destinations. From dramatic pink sand beaches to otherworldly sea caves, consider this episode your Bermuda starter pack. You'll learn the best times to visit, the most fun way to navigate around the island, and why it might be a good idea to pack your binoculars. I'm Angie Orth, joined by travel guide writer and one half of the travel-loving duo, Bobo and ChiChi. Megan Indoe, aka ChiChi, joins me in Chicago. This interview admittedly isn't very beachy, but as you can see, Megan and I were both rocking the pink sand vibes of Bermuda's famous beaches. From the blustery rooftop of the Virgin Hotel in Chicago, let's set our sights on beautiful Bermuda, shall we?
As kind of removed as Bermuda is, how did it become a vacation destination?
It became super popular even back in the Victorian era. There were steamships, a steamship travel at that point, and wealthy Americans would go there sort of for their health and wealth to escape the cold winters. So they were, snowbirds back in that day. And even Mark Twain came to Bermuda several times, and he has a fun quote I want to read about Bermuda. He said, "You can go to heaven if you want. I'd rather stay in Bermuda." And that is a Mark Twain quote. And then World War II, after that, and there was more flight routes, it just became a really easy place. It's a 2.5-hour flight from New York City. And it just became a very popular place for people to come to now. It's beautiful, it's warm, and it kind of coincided with it becoming a place of finance too, international finance, and a tax haven. And so you got a mix of that type of traveler there too, or business traveler there. And yeah, it's a great place to escape in the winter, and still is.
So how big is the island? Is it manageable to get around? Is it much bigger than you think, much smaller than you think?
Bermuda is 21 square miles, so it's not that large in size. It's packed with tons of things to do, but it takes about an hour to drive from one end to the other end.
Oh, that's not bad.
It's really manageable, but the thing is you'll probably explore one section or area at a time and move on. At least that's how we did it. But yeah, it doesn't really take long to get around from place to place.
So it's not like a ring road that you would just try to get all done at once. You're really going slowly and enjoying.
Absolutely. And another thing to keep in mind is the way that you have to travel to get around Bermuda is a little different because of the size. There's not that many cars. Tourists don't get cars. Locals barely get cars. So tourists you either have to use the public transportation. There's ferries, there's bus services. There's a great bus service that connects you around to all the different popular spots on the island. Or you can rent these little electric cars, and they're really cute. A lot of them are a 2-seater, and they're front and back. And the hotels will have a little port that you can plug it in. They're little electric vehicles. And that's how you can go sightseeing, get around. Or you can do a little motorbike or a scooter, which is what we did. And that was great. The only thing is when you need to get your luggage to a different part of Bermuda, you have to most likely take a taxi. And so what we would do is take a taxi, get to an area that we were going to stay at. And then they have all those little electric rentals that you can do and get around. And we just kind of stuck around in the same area and moved around the island that way.
So what are the main areas?
So the East End is where you're going to find St. George's. And then the West End is another popular area. And then there's Hamilton. And that's kind of in the center and like the capital. We first spent our time in Hamilton, moved over to the East End, then moved over to the West End and left. That's a really nice way to do it because there is so many different areas to explore. All of the pink sand beaches are really easy to visit from Hamilton or the East End because there is the South Shore Park. It's like where all the pink sand comes in on that side of the island. And so that is definitely a really great area to be around because you have to see the pink sand beaches while you're in Bermuda.
Hamilton is the capital.
Yes.
How different is it from St. George?
You're still going to get a lot of historic buildings there, but there's definitely a difference between, you feel like you're walking around a time capsule when you're in St. George. When you're in Hamilton, it's more of the modern city. You're going to find some resorts. There's not really beaches in Hamilton, but you are on the water. So this is where a lot of boats come in and out, and you can do those kind of water activities. It's just a completely different vibe because this is more of like their city center. This is where the business travelers come in and out of.
St. George is all historic, just fully UNESCO.
Full on.
Okay. Hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
And then Hamilton is like happening right now.
And it's still hundreds of years old too, but it has a more modern sense to it than compared to St. George.
And is that where the cruise ships would be?
The
Would that
cruise
be in
ships
Hamilton?
actually come in through the Royal Naval Dockyard. And that's the former British Royal Navy base, but that's where the cruises come in and out of.
Okay. It's a pretty popular cruise destination.
Yeah.
For the East Coast.
Yeah, and it's a really great stop because there's a lot right at the Royal Naval Dockyard. There's even a really great mini golf course that is designed around the most famous golf courses around the UK and the US. And then there's also, and you're on a cliff overlooking the ocean. And then there's little chickens that run around. So we absolutely did that.
That's so charming.
I know, and I even have a little bar in the middle. So like if you need to cool off and have a little beverage halfway through, it's not just for kids, it's for adults too.
So what do you think it is that sets Bermuda apart from the other islands in the Atlantic? Because it's not technically the Caribbean, right? We count it as a Caribbean island, but it's not really.
Yeah, it's the North Atlantic. It's not even a part of the Caribbean. It has some similar qualities when it comes to like the beaches are incredible. Some of the British influences I feel like are stronger here than islands I've been to in the Caribbean. But yeah, it's in the North Atlantic. And one big distinct difference too is like the climate. Because it is in the North Atlantic, it tends to be a little bit cooler in the winter than, say, some of the Caribbean islands. It averages between the high 60s, low 70s in the middle of winter, which some people think is too cold, but I think it's perfect and really comfortable in the winter because
I think it depends where you're from.
Yeah.
Right? To me, as a Floridian, that is quite chilly.
Yeah.
And for you coming from New York,
Yeah.
that's a nice toasty warm up.
It was great. We actually went during like the shoulder season. So we were there in the springtime before the peak season starts in May. And it was wonderful because not only do we have the island pretty much to ourselves, the weather was really comfortable. And when you're doing, for example, you're doing the pink sand beaches on the South Shore Trail, if you're in the middle of summer and it's really hot, it's hard to actually get to enjoy to like go beach hopping because you have no like protection from the sun. I guess you can jump in the ocean and cool off, but you kind of stay tethered to wherever you're parked or wherever your point of leaving is because you're exposed to the sun. When it's a little bit cooler and comfortable, it's a lot easier to enjoy the outdoor activities for a longer period of time.
This is a AAA Travel Minute. I'm Kaylin Seigan, a AAA travel advisor. Getting ready to travel is so exciting. But what type of suitcase is best for you? A black nylon duffel bag with super convenient zippers? Or a pink polycarbonate clamshell case on wheels? Soft-sided luggage is usually more flexible, allowing for additional space to pack. It typically features exterior pockets, which are helpful for accessing items on the go, like travel documents and a water bottle. Hardshell suitcases are generally stronger and offer more protection from spilled liquids or beatdowns in the cargo compartment, but they tend to be heavier and provide less room for clothes, souvenirs, and anything else you're taking with you. Ultimately, the choice between soft-sided and hard-shelled luggage comes down to personal preference. After considering how you'd like to travel, all that should be left to do is decide the color of your luggage.
Why are the beaches pink? Why is Bermuda's signature color pink?
So they have this like microorganism. It's called red forum, and it's crushed up. It has a red shell, and it's crushed up in the sand, and it gives it that like light pink, rosy hue. And what's interesting is you can tell when you like look on the internet and see photos or like that. Someone got really creative with the saturation there. Usually the sky is an indicator of how blue the sky is. There were certain times of the day where the sun was just too harsh and you couldn't really tell it was pink. I had to take photos and like go in the shade and like look. But there are certain times of the day where the sun's just hitting it just right, and it's undeniable. It's pink, and it's so beautiful, especially with the really blue, beautiful water. And then you get to Warwick Long Bay, and it's really cool because they basically have these like rocks jutting out of the ocean. So it's just a really dramatic sight to see pink sand. You have blue water, and you have these rocks coming out. It's just unbelievable.
So how many pink sand beaches are there? Is the whole island pink sand or just part?
The whole like South Shore has that pink sand and rosy hues to it. The best place to enjoy the pink sand beaches would be the stretch from Horseshoe Bay Beach, which is the most famous, to Warwick Long Bay. There's like a little over a mile trail that connects both of those beaches with little coves of mini beaches that are really fun to explore, and probably my favorite area to go beach hopping while we're there. It's absolutely breathtaking. And then there's just so many dramatic scenes with like the rocks and the jagged coastline, and it's absolutely unbelievably beautiful.
Of all these little beaches that you hop to, is there a specific one that was your favorite?
One of our favorite beaches is West Whale Beach. And what's really cool about this one is it's kind of secluded and hidden. We were told by locals that like we found a gem, and it felt like a gem. But there's like a cliff, and it has a fort on it, and it overlooks the ocean, and then you can go down to the beach. And it's just like, it has pink sand too. It's not as noticeable as I would say at Horseshoe Bay Beach, but it did have pink sand, and it was just the most secluded little private beach. And then there was also a cove there if you needed to, get out of the waves. Not that the waves were very big anyway, but some people are a little more timid swimmers. And the really cool thing about this beach is if you're up on the cliff and you're there between March and April, that's where the humpback whales migrate. And so you can have a chance to see whales. They'll be off in the distance, but that's where you can see whales from the shore. And the best tip to seeing them is looking out for the whale watching boats, because they'll be there if there's whales there. It'd be best if you had binoculars, but you could still see them. They'll be small. You can still see them out there with the naked eye.
So if you're there at that time of year, maybe pack binoculars, leave some extra room if you want to see whales. What is the story with the railway trail?
So during the 1930s and 40s, there was one train or one railway that was on Bermuda, and it's no longer there. They've turned it into an 18-mile like cycling, walking trail that people can just enjoy at leisure. And it goes through the coastal areas, it goes through neighborhoods, it goes through wooded areas. It's just like a really beautiful leisure trail that locals use, visitors can use, and it's just a really nice scenic path.
Something that I thought I was going to have to deal with a lot more as an adult was the Bermuda Triangle. And I think especially millennials, I guess, I don't know if it's just us or other generations, are kind of like surprised that this doesn't come up more, because it really was on TV a lot and in our lore as kids, kind of like quicksand. So what is the legend of the Bermuda Triangle? And I mean, did you guys even think about that? Did they talk about it in Bermuda?
I absolutely looked it up. I mean, I blame the History Channel shows of the early 2000s for my like lore around the Bermuda Triangle and being like, are we gonna crash there? Are we gonna shipwreck? But what's really interesting about the Bermuda Triangle is, well, one, there are over 300 shipwrecks around Bermuda, and that's due to the treacherous reefs. And before modern day navigation, it was really hard, especially if they weren't sure about the territory and where they are. It was a really common place for shipwrecks to happen because of the reefs there without modern day tools to navigate around them. But when I researched this, I found out that there's not any more shipwrecks or plane crashes or any other activity than any other areas. Because of media, it got popular. It just had more attention to it. They've done several tests, they've debunked it. And I was happy because we were going there, but I was a little bit disappointed that there wasn't some magic about it, that there's not some portal to some outer space thing or anything.
Kind of hoping for a little more mysticism, but okay.
I know.
All right, so instead of that, we now have places to snorkel and dive. Did you guys get to do any of that when you were in Bermuda?
There are so many different dive sites. You can go with a local scuba company or a diving company, and they'll take you out to different shipwrecks, which is a very popular activity among divers. But there are some really easy ones to visit. So right next to the airport is Grotto Bay Beach Resort. And this is a great hotel to stay at. This is the last one we stayed at the end of our trip. Not only do they have a shipwreck right on their beach, you can actually see it from the restaurant. Like, it's right there, and that's a really easy one to snorkel around. And they have snorkel gear at the hotel that you can borrow, but that's the easiest one to visit. And they have a shipwreck right there at the beach. They also have a cave that you can go swim in, and which is similar to like the cenotes in Mexico. And they have that at the hotel as well, along with a cave that you can even get a massage in.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Did you do that?
Absolutely.
Tell me more.
So you don't actually have to stay at the resort to get a massage, though you can book a massage, but they have a full-on spa inside a cave with like these natural pools, and it's one of the most magical experiences. And then if you rinse off and shower, they don't want your oils and things in the water. You can go into the cave next door and do a swim, which is normally just reserved for hotel guests. But if you are getting a treatment done, you're welcome to go check that out, which is unbelievably beautiful. And they also have other caves on the island that you can visit that are a popular tourist attraction. They're not swimming caves, but they have like these white rock formations that come out and are absolutely beautiful. And they actually were the inspiration for Fraggle Rock.
No way.
Yes. Crystal and Fantasy Caves, a Bermudian artist.
Really?
It is the one who helped the concept for Fraggle Rock. And he used the Fantasy and Crystal Caves as his inspiration. So when you go there and you're feeling a little Fraggle Rock, that's why. And you can only visit those by tour, and they're absolutely worth it. They're just, I've never been in a cave like that before.
And are there any caves that you can get to on your own if you're just touring around in your little electric vehicles?
Absolutely. If you go to Blue Hole Park, there's little trails and you can find caves on your own and kind of wander around those if you're feeling a little intrepid.
Let's talk about the best time to visit Bermuda. Bermuda is in the Atlantic Basin. It has the same hurricane season as the rest of the East Coast. So what's the best time to go?
So their peak season is typically May through October. We went in March, and I loved March. The only thing that you can potentially see humpback whales. The only thing you might be dealing with if you go during that shoulder season is if it's a particularly windy day. That's when the Portuguese man o' war can be blown into the beaches. And you just have to watch out for them because those stings can hurt. Locals aren't so scared of them. I was terrified of them because it's a creature I'm not familiar with. But we didn't really have too much of a problem with those during our visit, but it's a much more pleasant experience, in my opinion, to visit places on shoulder season. I like to avoid peak tourist times when I can and kind of spread the love to other seasons as well and have a less crowded experience.
You stayed in 3 different hotels when you were in Bermuda. What was the common thread from the hotels that you picked?
Okay, so we really love the color pink. We picked pink hotels. So in Hamilton, we stayed at the Princess Hamilton, which is a beautiful Fairmont 5-star property. Absolutely stunning. Great base if you want to base in Hamilton for a bit. And then we moved over to the West End at Cambridge Beaches and Resort, which is also a beautiful pink property. They have little villas. And that was magical. We had a villa that had our own private heated pool. Heated pool was clutch during that time of year because it was a little chilly. And we just got to swim at night under the stars and float in our pool under the stars with a cliff overlooking the ocean. Absolutely stunning. And then our very last resort we picked wasn't as pink. It was a little more orange, but it was the Grotto Bay Beach Resort, which was over by the airport and the perfect way to exit Bermuda. It was very convenient. And they also had just wonderful things to do around there. And that's where you're going to find more of by the airport is where you're going to find more of the caves, the Crystal and Fantasy Caves, Blue Hole Park.
So if you're cruising into Bermuda and say you have just a day or 2 there, is that enough time to get any kind of feeling of Bermuda, or do you feel like it's not enough?
You could. It depends how much time you have. If you don't have a lot of time, you can just hang out at the Royal Naval Dockyard. You're going to be able to soak in a little bit of what there is to do there. There are fun activities, there are museums. If you want to explore a little more, they have the little car rentals you can do there and hit up some beaches on your own. You definitely you can cover some ground in a few hours since it really only takes an hour to get from one part of Bermuda to the other end.
So if you only have 1 day and you're on a cruise, what is the thing that people need to see?
Oh, you should absolutely go see the pink sand beaches because Of course, there are some pink sand beaches in other places in the world, but the ones in Bermuda are absolutely famous. And I feel like it would be a miss if you didn't see those.
Bermuda shorts. Is everybody wearing them? Do you need to bring them? Can you get them when you get there? Tell me about Bermuda shorts.
Bermuda shorts are so cool. They were actually for the British Navy or military. They needed warmer climate uniforms, so they made longer shorts. Bermuda also, this is actually important for tourists to know, has a very conservative dress code. It's really not socially acceptable to be walking around in like your bathing suit when you're not actually like going into the water at the beach or at the beach. So you need to adhere to the local customs and traditions. I feel like I didn't really see as many women wearing them, but you will see people wearing them, especially around Hamilton or the resorts. Men are wearing them and they wear the tall sock that meets up to them. If you want to buy them, you can find them in there's shops in the little department store down in Hamilton, and you can find them there.
I feel like that's the one souvenir you absolutely have to have. I'm ready to go pack my Bermuda shorts and frolic on a pink sand beach and get a massage in a cave. Like, this is a perfect place.
Well, we'll come with you because I want to go back.
I would love a tour guide. Thank you.
Megan, Indoe, thank you for joining us. And thank you, our listeners, for being with us. If you're planning a trip, be sure to connect with a AAA travel advisor. Check out AAA.com/travel or visit your local branch. This podcast is a production of Auto Club Enterprises. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and leave us a review. I'm Angie Orth. Thank you for traveling with AAA.